am Mrs. Enk. I am an English teacher here at Fremd, and this is our first day of Writers Week 32. We are so glad that all of you can be here with us for 7th hour. This will be our classroom for the week. And so while we think about that, even though your teacher doesn't have the little phone jail, you're still going to put your phones and your iPads away. Some of you have some paper assignments, and those, of course, are perfectly fine. And we hope that you enjoy and learn in this space with these people for the entire week. So we do want to say a couple of thank yous. First of all, thank you to our tech crew for working so hard for us all week, all students volunteering their time during their free periods. They allow us to look good and to sound good, and we really appreciate everything that they do for us. We also appreciate our Fremd boosters. If your parents are boosters, please thank them either tonight or at some point this week for helping us bring Writers Week to Fremd. This event would look very different without their support and encouragement. So today, and obviously, thank your teacher who brought you here. How could I forget that? Look down the row. Yeah, give them a clap, a wave. They are terrific people who are doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes to make all of this happen. So our guest today is Joelle Charbonneau. Joelle has performed in opera and musical theater productions across Chicagoland. She now teaches private voice lessons and is the author of the New York Times bestselling The Testing Trilogy, as well as 2 mystery series, Rebecca Robbins Mysteries and The Glee Club Mysteries. In March of 2025, Joelle launched a YouTube video series, Banned, the History of Banned Books, that is entertaining and informative. You can check that out on YouTube. Her YA books have appeared on the Indie Next list, on the American Library Association's top 10 books for young readers, as well as the ALSA Quick Picks for reluctant readers. So we have 2 of her recent titles for sale today. Verify for $11.99, and you can get these just outside of the auditorium. We have a table set up, and we'll take cash or card or Apple Pay, and you can buy a book and get it signed all today if you want to. So for Verify, the bulletin of the Center for Children's Books said in a review, Verify builds steadily from simmering disquiet to a shattering final showdown that will leave readers desperate to reach the conclusion and anxious for sequels, both timely and relevant, that will have readers wondering just how much truth they really want to know. And so you, of course, will be delighted to know that we also have the sequel for sale, which is called Disclose. This one is $10.99. And New York Times bestselling author Ellen Hopkins, who is also a former Writers Week guest here at Fremd, said, Disclose is a thought-provoking tale of intrigue, beautifully crafted. You can get one of these or both of these, share them with a friend, and you can also come up after and say hello or take a picture, get your program signed, whatever you would like to do. So please join me in welcoming to the Writers Week stage, Joelle Charbonneau.
I have to admit, I normally don't read reviews, so that was kind of interesting. Well, hi, everyone. There are some of you here I know. My son is actually a senior here at Fremd, so if you see Maxwell Blanco around, just harass him and tell him that I told you to do it. He won't be surprised. Honestly, throw paper airplanes at him. It'll all be good. He might throw them back. Let's see. I am Joelle. I am a writer, which is the very last thing I ever thought I was going to do with my life. How many of you guys think you know exactly what you're going to do with the rest of your life? How many of you know what you want to major in college? Come on, you can raise your hands. There are some of you out there that I know you say that you know. How many of you tell people that you know what you're going to do with the rest of your life just to get them off your backs? Yeah, see, I totally approve of that. When I was your age, when I was in high school, I thought I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I liked to sing and dance. I wanted to go to college and major in musical theater. I wanted to move to New York and star on Broadway. I'm here talking to you, so that tells you how well that went. I did go to college for musical theater. I went to a small school in the middle of rural Illinois called Millikan University. They are known for their Little Mermaids for the most part. The girl that Jodie Benson, who sang the voice of the Little Mermaid on the films, she's from there. The voice, Sierra Borges, of the Little Mermaid, and the actress who played her on Broadway went there. I have red hair. But that's what I did when I was there. I actually majored in music with a theater minor, a history minor. I then went off and got my master's degree in opera performance. It's another totally useless degree, but I had fun. But that's what I did for years, is I sang and I danced. I did dinner theater, I did children's theater, I did some opera, I did some very weird, I was on WWF wrestling at one point. I know, I wasn't a wrestler. Anyone watch WWF? Now it's WWE. Anybody actually watch wrestling? It's fascinating to watch from backstage, let me tell you. Yeah. I gotta say, I didn't know anything about it until I arrived to do 2 shows. I have people who still make fun of me on, like, to this very day. That was like my MTV moment. I was on MTV WWF Heat. I was not a wrestler, but I got to walk into the ring with one of the wrestlers. I got to dance in the ring. I got to be on the sidelines and cheer for him as he lost. It was not my fault. But one of the things that when you're an actor and a singer is you get to do is a lot of really strange jobs, because you're always looking for your next job. If you're lucky, you'll do dinner theater and the job will last 2 or 3 months, and then you have to find another job and get paid so you can eat. I like food a great deal. So I got really good at auditioning. Anyone want to be an actor? Do we have any actors in the crowd? Okay. One of the things you also get really good at as an actor is you get really good at rejection. You hear no a lot. Like, you'll sometimes go to 100 auditions and you're lucky if you get 1 yes. And sometimes you'll go to auditions and you see your friends there, and then, you go home and you're waiting for your phone to ring to tell you that maybe you got the gig, and the phone does ring and it's your friend telling you that they got the gig. Yeah, that's great. I did this for years. I made a living at it. But and during this time, by the way, never once did I ever think about writing, not even remotely. I liked, using other people's words on stage. I didn't want write my own. In fact, I managed to skip most of the writing classes ever in my life. I actually went to college for musical theater. I went on a scholarship that said that I didn't have to take any general education classes, which meant I never took an English class in college. I am the least qualified person ever to be up here on this stage. Your teachers are now wondering why they invited me. But, I did do this all the time, and I went to an audition then. I was doing a show several years into my performing career. I was doing Evita at Drury Lane Dinner Theater in Oak Brook. You may have been to Drury Lane. But we had just opened Evita. She died 8 shows a week. It was very sad. It's not a spoiler. They tell you that right to begin with. But we were already auditioning for the next show in the season, because that's what you do. You're always looking for your next gig. So it was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I went to the audition, and I got a call. They liked me, and they wanted to see me again. I got what was called a callback. So I went to the callback. I got another callback. They called me back for the dance call. Like, I went to 3 callbacks. They really liked me, right? I was so certain I was going to get that gig. Then I went to my dressing room to do the show that I was doing and found out that the other 3 girls in my dressing room had all gotten phone calls telling them they had made the show, which meant that I hadn't. I know. And then you have to act like you're happy for them and that you're not like a problem. Like, no worries. I didn't need to eat. No big deal. I was excellent at being rejected, which I'm not sure what that says about me psychologically, but I really am good at it. But for that one rejection, it really got to me for some reason, and I still have no idea to this very day why that one bothered me so much. And that night, I did the show. I'm a professional. And then I drove home, and on my way home, for the very first time in my life, I had the opening line of a book that went through my head. And not like a book that I'd read, but a book that I could write, which was weird because I didn't want to write. Like, I hated writing. In school, we had I think it was 7th grade. The only time that I ever had to write fiction before I actually wrote fiction was in 7th grade. And we had like a notebook that we were supposed to write in every single day. And we were assigned to write a page, like 3-page story in that notebook. I have really big loopy handwriting when I want to. I don't know if any of you guys have done this where you're like, it is very, very, very dark. Ha, one line. Like, that was how I wrote. I didn't want to write a book. But I had this idea for a book, and it involved rejection, by the way. The opening scene was somebody getting rejected for a theater thing. You write what you know sometimes. And I just started to wonder, could I do it? Could I write a book? I liked reading. And I started wondering, what does it take to write a book? Because I never had that English class in college, all I knew about writing a book is it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's basically it. That's what I got. Which is not a bad place to start, but still, that's what I knew. So I sat down every single day, not because I wanted to be a writer, not because I ever thought I would be published. I just wanted to know if I could write a book. Like, look, there's a mountain. I wonder if I can climb it. I've done that too. But I just wanted to know, could I do it? So I wrote every single day until I got to the end of that book. And it is, I am fairly certain, the worst book ever written. Oh my God, it's so bad. Like, anybody want to be a writer? Who wants to be an author? Anybody out here? Because I dare you to try to write a book as bad as I did. You cannot do it. It was long. It was boring. My husband read this book. It's a miracle we're like not divorced. Like, seriously. And he still, to this day, will point out the one paragraph in this book that he thought was just genius. One paragraph, like 500 pages. Bless his heart. But after writing that book, as much as it was bad, and I knew it was bad, I was fascinated at writing and the puzzle of writing. Because, like, those were my words. Nobody else's. I mean, they were bad words, but they were mine. They were my thoughts. Because when I was in school, I don't know how many of you guys do this when you're in class. You start to, like, your teacher tells you to write whatever you want to write about. Write 3 pages and write whatever you want. And I'm like, I have no ideas. What do you want to hear about? And they're like, no, I want to hear what you think. And I'm like, no, you don't. You want me to write a specific thing for a grade. I just want to get a good grade and be done. I was really good at doing that. I was really good at gaming the system and telling the teacher what they wanted to hear. But for the first time, I didn't have to do that when writing. I was writing my thoughts. So I kept writing. So I wrote what I thought was a thriller the next time. It was not thrilling. But I kept writing. It was my 5th book that I ever wrote that I suddenly had a dead body headfirst in a roller rink toilet at the end of chapter 1 and a mystery to be solved. They're goofy, they're silly, they're adult mystery novels. And for the first time when I wrote that book, I decided, well, a couple friends read it and they said, no, this is really so much better than what you've done, which it would have been a miracle if it hadn't been. And they told me that I should try to find an agent and get it published. I never thought anyone would actually publish it, but I thought, well, let's see if anybody actually thought it was any better. That was my first published novel. There are 4 books in that series. I have another 3 in a singing and dancing and death series, because you write what you know. And then suddenly I wrote a really dark book that was kind of based on my students and their freakouts about going to college and college applications, which any of you guys going through that right now, you will totally empathize with, my students. And I wrote the testing. I didn't even know it was a young adult novel when I wrote it. I didn't realize you could kill kids in books, and people were like, yes, that's fine. Oh, by the way, I kill people in books. That's kind of my jam. It's my thing. Not because I just set out to do it. It just kind of happens. It really does. Who knew, though, that when you write like death and destruction, everyone's like, that's YA. You are my people. But I never intended on being a writer. I never actually intended on being an author. To this day, I still feel like strange when I call myself a writer. Because, why do my words matter? Why are my words worth publishing when I know so many people that weren't? I have questions. But that's the reason why I write, is because I have questions. I don't know, how many of you guys get stuck when your teacher tells you to write? Like you have nothing to write about. Yeah, what if is my favorite thing to use, and I used to never understand it. Like, what if the van outside this school is waiting to kidnap somebody and they grab the wrong person? What if your teacher is an alien? And that's why things are so strange in class today. Like, what if really does serve you pretty well. I do a lot of what if, kind of like having a student that totally freaked out about her college admissions and going, what if college admissions was even worse? What if those SATs and ACTs they make you take don't just feel like they're going to kill you? What if they actually could? So I wrote a book about that. Worst tests ever. I have thoughts about the SAT. I really hated it. Spoiler alert. Turns out that people actually like that's a best-selling novel. Who knew? But I use what if a lot. And they wanted me to read today. I normally don't read when I do these things. So I am going to read from a book that she actually read a review that I legitimately don't think I've ever heard before. As a performer, I learned to avoid reviews, and well, I tend to do it a lot. Verify and Disclose are near future dystopians, although they're feeling a little bit way too dystopian, like now. I pitched the book after writing the first couple of chapters in 2017. I was actually writing other books at the time, so it took a couple more years before I finally got around to writing the book and it coming out. And then the next book came out the next year after that. So things were a little bit different in the world than they are then. But I wanted to explore like the power of words. And what if people really don't understand how to determine fact from fiction? I see a lot of things online all the time. I was watching online a great deal where people would post things, and I like to fact check them. I fact check everybody I know. And I remember somebody posting a Thomas Jefferson quote. And I looked at it, and it was about freedom of the press, and I went, wow, that's fascinating, but I don't think that's real. So, of course, I looked it up. I couldn't find out anything online as to whether or not actually it was real, so I'm the person that called the Monticello Society because I'm that annoying. And I realized that they're like, yeah, no, that quote's going around. He didn't say it. We have nothing documented that he said it. So I posted online. It was on Facebook. It was my aunt's Facebook account. My aunt she doesn't really know what she's doing on Facebook. She posts a lot of things that she doesn't mean to do or hits things when she thinks she's talking to one person and everybody gets to see it. Do you have parents that do that, or aunts and uncles? It's really interesting to watch. You're like, really? But I said, hey, Aunt Donna, this is great, but while I approve of the sentiment, Thomas Jefferson never said this. Somebody then responded to that and said, why does it matter? If it's morally correct, why does it matter if he said it? Because it feel like it's correct. And I'm like, yes, just because you feel it's correct, it doesn't make it true. And I started wondering about that, like, wow, can we really end up with a society that doesn't understand the difference between fact and fiction? Like that doesn't understand how to fact check or why it's important? And I kind of went down the rabbit hole of creating my own world for that. How would that happen? Well, in the era of ebooks, that's really easy to make that happen. What if they start taking print books away? I mean, environmentally conscious people would like that. We save more trees. And now, if there's only electronic editions out there, who's to say they can't change whatever they want? Because funny thing, when I have a typo in a book and somebody tells me about it, I can tell my publisher, and while they can't change it in the print book, they can push out a changed version of it that you are never notified that your version just changed online. You have no idea a change is made. So what else could they edit out? What history could they remove? So I wrote a book about it. And then how could you get people who think they know the truth to actually listen to facts and change their mind? Which I got to tell you is the hardest part of the whole thing. Arguing with people online, they don't care what fact is. They just will not believe it. And I haven't read anything of my own in a really long time. How many people hate reading their own work out loud? Anybody like fate worse than death? You would rather do anything else but sink into your seats, hope your teacher would never call on you? That's me, and now I'm reading. Isn't that fun? So basically, I'm being tortured. Thanks, guys. The click of the lock sliding into the place echoes loud in the darkness. No way out. I swallow hard and fight to keep the building fear out of my voice. What train are we getting on? Well, it's not a real train. He takes off his hat and moves deeper into the shadows while beckoning me to follow. At least not the way you mean. We go through here. I have a flashlight on my phone, I say. We don't have to stumble around in the dark. It won't be dark in here. He leads me through another doorway, and the illumination he promised flares to life. The light is soft, but I have to squint as my eyes adjust. There are two worn, mismatched armchairs in the middle of the room. I'm about to ask Guise here to explain the train again when the walls of the room catch my attention and my heart squeezes. The walls are filled with old-fashioned books, not real ones, paintings of them, stacked together, strewn around, red, blue, yellow, black, all with pages of white, open, closed, and flying out of the open books and as if being set free and swirling into the air are carefully printed words that shimmer at the edges as if by magic. The truth is found when men are free to pursue it, FDR. The truth is incontrovertible. Panic may resent it, ignorance may deride it, malice may distort it, but there it is, WC. Trust, but verify, RR. Verify. That word jumps out at me at first, among the words and the sentences painted throughout the room, all of them drawn by a hand that is as well known as my own, maybe better. My mother was here. She was a part of this, whatever this is. I ball my fingers into fists. My nails bite deep into my palms as I turn in a circle. My mother painted this. She must have been in this room for hours. It would have taken her days, if not weeks, to create this entire scene. Guise nods. Your mother had some help, but yeah, the designs for this train station are hers. This is a train station? It wasn't like any train station I'd ever seen. For starters, there were no trains. Guise smirks. The term was chosen by my grandfather and his friends to honor the Underground Railroad. The what? I ask. Guise shakes his head. Sorry, I forget that was edited out of your history. We'll get to that another time. All you need to know for now is this is what we call a station, and what happens next is what we refer to as getting on the train. He takes a seat in the faded red chair and nods to the one across from him. For this little adventure, I will be your conductor. My conductor. I step cautiously toward the raggedy yellow chair. Next to Guise is a round end table with a box sitting in the center. There's no table next to the chair designated for me. You're going to tell me why my mother painted these walls and what she was doing before she died? I'm going to tell you the truth. The truth. I glance at the words snaking along the wall next to me. Who knows nothing is nearer to the truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods and errors. TJ. That actually is a Thomas Jefferson quote, by the way. I promise I will answer all the questions your mother can, but I have to admit that I only met her once and just for a few minutes. My father was your mother's conductor. This was her train station. It was her experience almost 2 years ago that inspired her to create the design on the walls. Since then, a number of our stations have undergone transformations to help make the transitions onto the train a bit more pleasant. You make it sound as if we're going to do something dangerous. Sometimes the most frightening leap is the one we make in our own minds, he says. Then he shakes his head and laughs. Sorry, it's something my grandfather likes to say and my father repeats a lot. Dad's really good at this conductor thing. I'm new to it, so I'm still working out the kinks. Developing my own style, you could say. Maybe I should wave for your father. Is he one of the other people outside the door, the guy that at the door said that is here? I look back at the walls and a dozen of books pictured. Each one has a title on the spine. Most I've never heard of. My dad isn't available right now. If you want to do this, you're stuck with me. The tension in his voice is less than reassuring. Once you sit down, we can get started. I place a hand on my stomach and take the seat across from Guise, who still hasn't told me his name. If he thinks I'm going to call him conductor, he's dead wrong. Guise flips his hat onto the table next to him. He then places a hand on the armchair's rest and said, I thought you already knew a bunch of this because of your mom. However, since she actually followed the rules, I'm going to have to start at the beginning. The paper you were given and the word that was written on it. Verify. Clearly, by the quotes on the wall, the word has some sort of meaning. Have you ever heard it before? I want to say yes, since my mother clearly knew the word, but I am honest and shake my head. Don't feel bad, he says, which irrationally makes me feel worse. There's a reason for that. So what does it mean? He takes a deep breath and carefully says the words he has clearly taken time to memorize, as if they are part of the conductor instruction manual or something. The word verify means to establish the truth, accuracy, or reality of something. As far as my grandfather could tell, it was first used in the 14th century. It was one of the first words banned from use by certain government agencies back when they started cleaning up the streets and making this country safer. Little by little, they removed crime and poverty, but they also removed words. ones that would have encouraged people to question what they were told. And by doing so, they changed this from a country that believed in facts to one built on lies. The scene that follows is actually her looking up some words and actually finding a whole bunch of words that had been removed that she's never actually known before. Like she gets to look them up online, and they don't exist in the dictionary, but then she sees them in a real dictionary. That seems more disturbing for me nowadays because there is a list of words that has been printed where they have scrubbed those words from government sites. Also, a lot of universities have been discouraged from using those words. Otherwise, if they are even anywhere on their syllabuses, if they are anywhere on their websites or used in their classes, they can take their money away for grants, for federal grants. It's gotten a little disturbing in the last year that I even wrote this book. But it was my way of trying to understand what was happening around us, trying to understand why people would believe what they want to believe instead of actually believing in truth. It's kind of an interesting problem. But one of the things I will say, how many of you guys hate writing? Would rather do anything else? Think it's completely pointless? Excellent. I was you. One of the things about writing that I have found, and I'm not saying writing for a grade, because writing for a grade, let me tell you, it was all gaming the system. For me, it was me writing what I thought my teacher wanted to hear and getting the grade and moving on. But one of the things when writing, whether it's poetry, whether it's fiction, whether it's nonfic, it's an interesting way for you to kind of work through the world. And I also will say that one of the themes of Verify, and that I will end this with so you can just kind of grill me on questions if you have questions I'll talk about anything, is the power of words that they have themselves. Words have huge amounts of power. If they didn't, they wouldn't try to stop people from using theirs. They wouldn't try to stop people from, and when we're talking words, we're talking anything that is your voice, your thoughts, like the reality for you, your circumstances, your experience. It's a powerful thing. And the only way that you will get better at changing the world into what you want it to do is by getting better at the tools that you have to use them. And one of the most important tools you'll ever have is your voice. Because you have something important to say. And really, right now, the way the world's going, we kind of need you guys to get really good at using your voice because I'm counting on you to change the world. And you can, no pressure. But writing will help you do that. And most often, it's for yourself. So get good at using your words and using them a lot because we need you guys. But that's me, and that's Verify and writing. Do you guys have questions? Anybody have questions about writing? Yes. How many books have I published? I have 16 published books and 2 published novellas. So novellas are like, 150 pages or something. They went along with a fantasy series that I did, which was fun. I got to lop off somebody's head in one of them. I'm telling you, I tried to write romance at one point. I joined a writer's group when I was writing. They told me that I should join a writer's group and meet other people that, were good at writing. So I joined the local writer's group, and it turns out they were all writing romance. So I tried to write a romance. I'm terrible at it. I'm much better at killing people in books. Well, how many of you guys, when you talk about books in class, you talk about conflict? How many times have you heard the word conflict? What's the conflict? Well, hello, dead body falling at your feet, conflict. Running for your life, conflict. It totally works for me. I know. I only kill people in books, though. Don't tell your parents that you talked to somebody that was, killing people. This is not like Criminal Minds 101. Yeah, back there, hoodie, yes. Yes. Was I in choir? She's saying since I did singing and dancing and whatnot in opera, was I in choir? I was in choir. In high school, I was in choir. Yay for the choir kids. Score. It's my friend. These are my people. Although more often than not in choir, I have a fairly large voice. One of the fun things about opera is you have to sing over an orchestra without mics more often than not. I got good at it. But that meant that while I can sing all the top notes, I often was singing some of the lower alto and second alto stuff, and sometimes tenor, which was way more interesting because I didn't have to sing a melody. I got to sing the harmony. That was fun. But But yes, I'm a music kid, which it figures that my son doesn't actually do the singing thing. He actually plays the world's largest instrument with a string bass. I had to get a new car in order to like deal with that thing. It was much easier to just transport myself with a voice. He did not get the memo. Yeah. How do you find a passion for writing? How do you write even if you don't want to? I will tell you right now, writing's hard. I mean, how many of you guys start writing something like you think you have an idea for an assignment, you start writing, and then after it goes along for a while, you think, okay, maybe this isn't very good, and then you want to stop and you try to come up with another idea, and then you try another idea, and that one's just as bad. Like you hit the middle again. The middle sucks. And I'm not talking like the middle of a book is like a third. We're talking the beginning's like 20 pages, the end is 20 pages. The middle is like the black hole of death in between. It's awful. I make writing sound like fun, don't I? Writing's hard. What gets me through doing it is I write like a reader. I can't outline. How many of you guys have outlined something? You have to write what you're going to write before you write it? How many of you guys hate outlining? Anybody like write the outline if you have to turn it in after you've actually written the thing? That would be me. Maybe if I take the English class in college, I would have been able to do it the way that everyone says you're supposed to. I've written mystery novels and thrillers. There's always a puzzle. There's always a whodunit. It's how the pieces go together. I have no idea when I start off. You would think when I kill somebody at the beginning of the book, I would know who done it. No clue. That's part of what gets me writing. And what keeps me writing, even when I don't necessarily want to write that day or I think that it's terrible, I keep writing because I want to know the answer. In Verify and Disclose, I legitimately wanted to know what would get people to finally pay attention to the truth when they don't want to believe it. When they want to do anything because it disrupts their life. It's inconvenient for them to believe it. What would get them to do it? I kept writing because I wanted to know the answer. I never knew if anybody else would like the book. I didn't know if my editor would still want to publish it. But I wanted to know the answer, so it keeps me going. Right now, I am writing another dystopian series, which is, man, kicking my butt. And a lot of it was, I was 2/3 of the way done with the first book when a year ago, the world around us changed a bit. And suddenly there is far more of a war on science, and there's more of other things that are happening. And now I had to throw it all out and rebuild my world again based on modern world events. There is nothing more frustrating than being almost done and having to go back to the beginning. Trust me. But I want to know the answers to the questions that I've asked. So I keep writing. And sometimes those things don't get published. I have a really great, I do have a web series that's about banned books, but it started off as a book. And I got rejected from everywhere with editors telling me how important this book was and how great it was, and they loved the voice and they loved everything about it, but they really didn't think that they could do it, but maybe send it to this publisher, right? Everybody, like, you ever seen the meme with the Spider-Man that's pointing at each other, you know? That was publishers. They all pointing at somebody else to publish it because no one wanted to take on the book banners. They're all scared. So I just decided to do a web series instead. But I wanted to know what the history was. How much worse is it now than it was before? I keep writing because I just want to know what if, even if somebody doesn't want to publish it. Which makes me a little crazy. But actually a lot crazy. Yes? How do you get a publisher? That's an, I have lots of authors that would like to know the question that have been long published. The publishing industry is a little bit weird right now. If you want to go the traditional publishing route, which is not self-publishing, because self-publishing you can do pretty easily with a click of a button. I have never been one that has done it. You have to find an agent typically before you find a publisher, because publishers won't read your book unless an agent, a literary agent, has told them that it's good and that sends it to them. They want somebody else to look at it before they ever take a look. Literary agents, there are lots and lots and lots of them. They typically specialize in very specific things. My agent tends to be a little bit weird. She has a line on her bio that says she represents speculative fiction, and she's got some literary this, and then whatever my clients happen to write, which I feel like is a line for me because I started off writing adult goofy silly mysteries, and I have veered into dystopian and contemporary. I blow up a school in a book. Like, it just, she just kind of follows me wherever I go. I've done some nonfic. But you have to send what's called a query letter. It's a one-page, here are my qualifications for writing a book, for which when I started out were nothing. And then the back jacket copy for basically what your book is about, and then letting them know that you have it and would you like to read it. And sometimes they'll ask for the first couple of chapters. There are lots of literary agents out there, and they love to say no. They work for free until they sell your book. So basically they have to fall in love with you before and really love this thing. So they're looking for a reason to say no, and then if they can't find a reason to say no, that's when they say yes. It can take a lot. I know people who have sent out hundreds of query letters. I think I had 187 that were out before I gave up counting. There were more. I just figured, what's the point? But I got lucky that my agent, she loved my goofy, silly roller skating novel with a dead body head first in a roller ring toilet. And she helped me edit it. And 2 weeks after she started sending it out to publishers, we got a contract. So go team. But you never really know. She has had some clients that she loves their work, and it takes 3 or 4 books before they finally are able to sell one. They just keep writing, and she just keeps sending them out until they'll get that, You just have to find somebody who likes you a lot. Otherwise, you can publish your own stuff on Amazon if you really want to. Just say click. Yes, all the way in the back. What's my favorite book series and why? Oh, that's hard. Actually, it's easier than if I'm at like a writing festival, because then all my friends are there, and then I feel like I'm supposed to say them. But it depends on my mood. Like, really, depending on what I like to read that day. Sometimes I like goofy, silly stuff. Book series. I really liked, back in the day, there was an author named David Eddings who wrote The Belgariad and Malloreon. They're each 5-book series. And they're fantasy. I really greatly enjoyed them. I think they would be considered more teen novels now, but the teen category didn't exist back then, but they were some of my favorite when I was first in high school and then college and then beyond. Those are always fun. I feel like that way I'm not choosing one of my friends and then somebody tells them. Anything by Neil Shusterman, his series are fantastic. I like the Size series, but I really do like the Unwind series by him. And then I will say that my favorite book that I have recently read is The Sideways Life of Denny. Oh, what was Denny's last name? Now that's going to bug me. But it's an unusual sort of mystery-esque kind of a thing. Denny Voss? I think Denny Voss. But it was one that I kind of plowed through like within a couple of hours. Yeah. Are any of the books based on things that I've dealt with in my life? Yes, sometimes it's stuff I've observed my students going through in their lives, kind of like melting down after, dealing with college stuff and then turning her entire meltdown into a book series. But for me, yes, one of the series that you'll find me most, obviously, well, we can start with Verify. Mary, who is the main character in this, she's an artist. I can't draw. I'm the person you play Pictionary with if you also can't draw, because, we draw the blob and someone's like, oh yeah, Eiffel Tower, and everybody else who can draw can't see what we just saw. I'm terrible at drawing. But she does have a father who is an alcoholic and is struggling. He has started drinking after her mom's death. He's a functional alcoholic. He can absolutely be okay when he's at work, but when he comes home, he is not. My editor and I had some really interesting battles over that, because she wanted to make the father an alcoholic like she sees in movies, where they are stumbling down drunk and they're having all of these other issues that she likes to see in movies, and she thought were so visually great. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not my experience. My dad was an alcoholic from a very large portion of my life, and nobody else knew it because he was very functional. But it did color a great deal of what I did. So we actually see that experience in that book. You'll also sort of see it in Time Bomb. That's the book that I pitched. Does anyone know Breakfast Club still? I pitched it as Die Hard meets Breakfast Club, which apparently only I will create, a teen, coming of age teen movie of them being in detention and of different ilks, and then bombs. You know, I am the person that does that. But Time Bomb is about several different points of view, characters that are all going into school like the week before school starts because there's activities going on, but school hasn't started yet. And while they're there, a bomb goes off. And they are all very different people. You know, they are different ethnicities, they are different religions, they are different socioeconomic statuses. You know, they vaguely know each other from going to school. Some of them think that they're friends, but really, how well do you know anyone? Because how many of you guys have ever been, you know, you see a friend that looks kind of down, or you're the person that's kind of down, and someone says, hey, how are you doing? And you say, I'm fine. And you know when your friend tells you they're not, like, they're fine, you're like, you're not fine, but do you really say anything? They don't really want to talk about it. Do you leave them be? It's all of these kids who at one point or another, they all keep saying they're fine. But one of them, clearly they're not. Clearly they're more than that, kind of like I was in school when everyone would ask me, and I was fine. Except in this case, one of those kids is the bomber. And I will say I had no idea who bombed at the school when I first started writing the book. I had no clue. I had a reason why each one of them would bomb the school, and then I eliminated suspects until I finally figured it out. I wrote to figure it out. I'm not that bright at this. Anybody else? Hey. Ah, yes. What? I can't see anything in the lights up here, so I'm counting on people to wave me down. Yes. What inspires me to blow up schools and kill children in books? Hey, I don't just kill children. I will say in my adult books, I kill adults too. Actually, strangely enough, in my adult books, I have a murder mystery series about a girl that sings and dances and stuff. She can't like make it in Broadway or whatever, so she takes a job as a local show choir coach. And she has kids that are in that. They're murder mysteries. I was told I couldn't kill a single teen in that adult series. And yet in my teen books, I'm encouraged to kill more of you than I ever thought I wanted to. It's not so much that I just am going to kill off people. I'm the person that rescues the chipmunk like that's injured in my backyard, you know. But part of the reason why when you're reading for conflict, you're reading to see what people will do. Characters are my favorite thing. And most people, let's face it, it's really easy if the stakes aren't very high for everyone to kind of hide who their true self is, right? If you're just kind of wandering around the hallways, you're not going to tell anybody, you're not going to react weird. But man, if your life's in danger and you know people are dying around you, you will not think before you speak. I will get to see exactly who you are as a character, and that's kind of fun. I have 1 minute left. Anyone else? One last question. Best question ever. You were back here. You were able to send it off. My least favorite book series. Well, I can tell you that my least favorite book that was incredibly popular with everybody else was, don't tell anyone, Fault in Our Stars. But the reason why, I have a reason. I understand why people like it, but my dad died of cancer, and he actually died of a recurrence of cancer. And I have a problem with the book because never once does, when someone's not feeling well that has had cancer and is in remission, never once does anyone think maybe they have cancer again. And it is the first thing you think. And it totally ruined the whole book for me. And I kept reading, did nobody else actually get bothered by that? Apparently not. Apparently it's just me. Don't tell John Green, although I don't think he's really concerned about what I think. But maybe he is. I've only met him once. Well, thanks, guys. This has been fun. And again, if you see Max this week, harass him for me.